Ladies and gentlemen, I've been meaning to make this video for some time, but Andrew Lincoln's comments were the thing. It was like the catalyst that broke me actually getting down to film it. Yes, other creators in the space have already talked about this. I'm a little late to the party, but I wanted to give my 2 cents. I don't know the exact quote, but Andrew Lincoln recently said in an interview that essentially he thinks Glenn's death in season 7 went a little bit too far, and he kind of wished that it wasn't as gory as it was. All right, we have to break this down because I fundamentally disagree with everything he said in that statement, and I know this is a divisive one because, the facts are the facts. After Glenn's death, viewership literally plummeted. I believe it was 7 million viewers lost between episode 1 and episode 2 of The Walking Dead. That's absolutely insane. There is no denying that Glenn's death had a very, very, very negative impact on the fans of the show. It literally caused longtime fans to stop watching. I can't dispute that. It was not a good decision, but I don't think it was a bad decision because of what Andrew Lincoln's claiming. I don't think this had anything to do with violence. Glenn's death was a problem because of the cliffhanger. That's really the sole reason. That, and I understand there's some softies out there who think it's because he was the heart of the show, and since he died in such a brutal way, it was like a slap in the face to the fans. I fundamentally disagree with that. I understand, obviously, 7 million people don't feel the same way about that situation, at least, and I'm sure there's many, many more. That being said, this was arguably the most important moment in the comics that ever happened, and they adapted it to screen in a way that was so incredible. It was one of the best TV adaptations for anything ever. I think it was a fantastic way of doing it visually. That being said, the cliffhanger didn't help. If it were me, I would never have done a cliffhanger. I probably would have ended the finale in a different way, though I do also understand the argument that if we're talking in terms of like how to do a cliffhanger, this was the best way to do it because everyone was talking about The Walking Dead that summer. Everyone. So yes, from like a business and like a TV perspective, yeah, this is actually, they probably did the best cliffhanger ever. But from an audience reception perspective, it's the worst cliffhanger ever, paired with the fact that it was Glenn who died when we finally saw it. So yeah, there was a lot as far as, it becoming a bad thing with viewers and their reception of it, especially if you were watching, week to week in that period of time. I'll be honest, I picked up The Walking Dead way past that point. I picked it up right before season 8 aired. So I got to binge. I was fortunate enough to binge seasons 1 through 7 upon my first viewing. So that cliffhanger didn't impact me at all. That being said, I could only imagine what it was like to have to wait months and months and months to get an answer to what happened there. I actually couldn't even imagine that. And I know a lot of what I'm saying right now is kind of going against me fundamentally disagreeing with Andrew Lincoln's comments. But like I said, I had to preface it with, I understand that some people thought it was like, kicking someone while he's down. You're getting rid of the best heart of the show in the most gory way. Look, I do get that, but that was such an important moment in the comics. It was such an important moment for the story and what was to come. And it was just a crucial moment in The Walking Dead that I think was represented as perfectly as it physically could be from its source material. It really was that good, and I love what it did on every front, whether it was establishing further relationships and fights with, Negan and Maggie, whether it was, everything that came about the way Rick was after the fact, the way Carl and everyone in the cast was because of that pivotal moment. And as a matter of fact, the March to War, All Out War, all of that stuff, that entire storyline that came because of how bad of a death it was just so impactful. And while I don't think it was translated to screen as well as it was in the comics, like the comics did a far better job with that entire thing, it still was such an amazing story and such a great story to follow that even in retrospect, it's hard for me to argue anything against it. I can't in good faith say that Glenn's death was a mistake. I don't think it was. I think it was one of the best moments of the comics brought to screen in one of the best adaptations ever. There's not even a single inch of me that thinks it was too gory, too much of a mistake, or anything. And if we're talking about gore, you want to talk about real bad gore? Go watch The Boys. Like, if you think what happened to Glenn is bad, you haven't fucking seen anything. Okay, yeah, 17 million people. That's a lot of people, and I understand some of those people don't like that gross out sort of thing, but you picked the wrong show. If you actually have a problem with it to the point where you would stop watching a show because of the gore factor, you literally picked the wrong show. Glenn's death was gross, but it wasn't as bad as some other stuff. It felt very real, for sure, whereas like The Boys is exploding bodies and all that stuff. It's a little more bombastic, though kind of also could be real, I'm sure. It depends how far down you scroll on Live Leak. But the overall point I'm making is I think the thing was Glenn's felt real and people had a problem with it, but I'm fucking glad it did. Like, another prime example of this, and I'm about to spoil Better Call Saul for you, so if you haven't seen it, skip to this part of the video, but in Better Call Saul, when Howard Hamlin died, it felt literally like a live leak. It felt like I was scrolling through Twitter, because I don't know about you guys, my Twitter feed is literally like the most gory stuff ever, and I don't even ask for it. It just happens. I try to block it, blah, blah, blah. I'm going off on a tangent. The reason I bring it up is Howard Hamlin's death felt like that. It felt real. It felt like something I would see like in real life. That's how Glenn's death was, and I love both of those deaths because of that, because it felt real, and it's how you, in my opinion, it's how you tell a good story. Like, Howard Hamlin's death was such an important factor in the story. It was brilliant. It really was. And I felt the same way about Glenn's. It was not too gory at all. It was just fabulous. It really was. My only thing is, if you're going to do the cliffhanger, maybe you should have killed Abraham in season 6 and then killed Glenn in season 7, if anything. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like doing 2 in 1, especially as brutal as it was for such a large audience who loved both of those characters, that's a tough pill to swallow. If you had killed Abraham in the first one, then left the rest of that for the lineup to continue, God, that would have been absolutely insane. It really would have been. But I don't know. Also, that being said, I like what they did on a lot of fronts. I didn't have that problem of I had to wait all that time, but I can completely understand how that, impacted other people. That being said, I would love to hear from you guys what you thought about the cliffhanger, Glenn's death at large, and did you think they needed to change anything with it? Do you think it should have stayed the same? I want to start a healthy conversation down there, so let's take it there, and peace out.